I want to just continue with what I was talking about in Greg Sargent's column, because I went through the NPR story about these two people resigning from the Fox sewer because of Field Marshal Tucker Carlson's lies and incendiary statements as Tucker Carlson tries to destroy American democracy. Greg Sargent says a true reckoning of what's going on requires more than just observing it and talking about it, which is what I do, or writing about it, which is what Greg Sargent does. He says it also requires reflection on the instrumental nature of propaganda, like what comes out of the mouth of Field Marshal Tucker Carlson. And Sargent points out something that has really been concerning me. He says much of the discussion about what these right-wingers are doing treats the possibility of violence as a mere incidental byproduct of the propaganda and depicts it merely as a conspiracy theorizing for profit getting out of control. But that isn't quite right. Sargent writes, instead, let's note that this bundle of propagandistic devices has a purpose. And those devices include the suggestions that our system is incapable of rendering trustworthy or legitimate outcomes in elections, that the January 6 rioters' underlying cause was just and noble, that those rioters are being persecuted now as political prisoners, and that all of this reflects broader scorched earth warfare that is being waged by people on the left against conservatives. So all of that bullshit has a purpose. And that isn't to say that propaganda is a deliberate effort to incite violence. Not all propaganda. The point is broader. It's that all this appears designed to lay the foundation that would justify the efforts to subvert legitimate democratic outcomes by any means necessary or available in the future. What Field Marshal Tucker Carlson and the rest of these swine are doing is laying the foundation so that when some crazy fucker like Rittenhouse decides to go kill people and then be found not guilty, that's part of the foundation that says, hey, you got to do what you got to do. And so many of these brain dead, I can't think of any other way to put it, like Kyle Rittenhouse, this 17-year-old punk. I have fucking clothing that's older than 17. I have food in my refrigerator that's older than 17 years. And this son of a bitch arms himself with a military-style assault rifle and goes to do what? When you arm yourself with a weapon of death, you are out to kill, period. And then he's found not guilty. And the Nazis in this country, the militia types, the ones who stormed the Capitol, are just fucking ecstatic. Who was it that said, now open carry becomes open season? So the propaganda, the lies, the deception is what is creating the risk of more violence. And that's what's so dangerous about what we're going through now. Because at some point, I don't know what the point is. I've already crossed that point. I've already reached that point and gone way beyond it years ago. At some point, you, gentle listener, are going to realize or conclude that you have got to do just the minimal to protect you and yours. That the way things are does not guarantee that you can attend a Christmas parade or go to a mall or have a prayer session in a church or worship in a synagogue or go to college classes without the overarching realization that you may be killed because you can't defend yourself. Or because the madman, and it's always a man, who decides to bring this havoc and death and destruction is going to come from a direction you least expect it. But at some point, whether it is a legitimate conclusion or not, and in most cases it isn't, that you can defend yourself against this kind of insanity. But even though the conclusion that you can defend yourself may be crazy, you are still going to want the illusion of defense. And what does that mean? I think it means you will arm yourself. I think it means that you will take the steps necessary that will lead you to that. That's what this propaganda, that's what filth like Rush Limbaugh, thank God he's dead, or thank somebody, or Sean Hannity, or Tucker Carlson, or Laura Ingraham, or Marjorie Green, or any of these people. This is what their danger is. This is what they've been advocating, either directly or indirectly, either blatantly or subtly. They advocate violence. I checked out CNN, MSNBC, and the Fox sewer this morning. On CNN and MSNBC, they were carrying the closing arguments of the defense and the prosecution. I got that reversed, but the prosecution and defense in the trial of these 3 white killers in South Georgia. That's what MSNBC and CNN were covering. I switched to Fox, and they are covering the race of the man who drove the red SUV into the crowd of people at the parade in Wisconsin and left 5 or 6 dead and God knows how many injured. And what Fox was doing, the most prominent display on the screen was the face of a black man who is the prime suspect in that act of violence. But you see what they're doing. The more important coverage should have been on the closing arguments of the trial going on here in South Georgia. So a madman, I don't care if he's white or black or Asian or Latino, whatever he is, who does something as insane as the perpetrator in Wisconsin, whoever he turns out to be, did, where people are just trying to watch a goddamn parade. It doesn't make any difference what the race of the person is. Obviously, the son of a bitch is deranged. But to Fox, it's the perfect depiction that they need to instill racist violence in their white audience. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.